It was a busy weekend for Tennessee football recruiting. Not one, not two, but three volunteer commitments, two for the class of 2024 and one to kick off the 25 class. Who are these guys and what will they be bringing to Rocky Top? Tennessee recruiting and a whole lot more here on Monday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Happy New Week, everybody, and I hope you guys had a very happy Easter break. Maybe some of you guys were out for Good Friday on Friday, or maybe you guys are out of work or school here on a Monday for the Easter holiday, but hope you guys had a great weekend spending it with your family and friends and all that good stuff, and are ready for a new week of Tennessee football spring practice. It is the last week of Tennessee football spring practice, and the orange and white game, it is going to be here on Saturday, so really looking forward to previewing that every day this week, and of course, recapping it all next Monday right here on Locked On Vols. Hey, this episode of Locked On Vols that is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make your home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/college60 and use that code college60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That is HelloFresh.com. I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Please subscribe to Locked On Vols YouTube page. We're getting closer to 7K. Appreciate you guys. And as always, for listening wherever you find your podcast. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Leave me a positive review. That helps me out so much. Got a fun show coming up. Twitter Tuesday is tomorrow, so any mailbag questions on football recruiting, spring practice, baseball, basketball, whatever you guys have, any questions for me, get them in at _Kane or at Locked On Vols for Twitter Tuesday tomorrow. And the Q of the day, you can answer this for Twitter Tuesday. What are your top position battles for Tennessee football that you're going to be looking for in the orange and white game? And that kind of leads us into today's episode. We'll do recruiting in segment 1, but here are my top 4 position battles that I've been looking for in spring practice so far, and what I'll be looking for in the orange and white game. And then segment 3, 3 guys I'm watching, 1 for each of those position battles, and I'm going to tell you about that here in segment number 3. So, but first, it's recruiting. Tennessee football, big-time recruiting weekend. 2 commits on Friday, 1 commit on Saturday. We'll break it down here first. We'll go in reverse order. Saturday, Tennessee picked up the commit from 3-star offensive tackle Gage Ginther. He is 6'6", 280 pounds, again an offensive tackle. He attends Fossil Ridge High School in Fort Collins, Colorado. He was in town here recently. Really vibed with the Tennessee coaching staff. Really enjoyed seeing campus and the community and all that type of stuff. And he went ahead and made the call just a couple of days later. This came on Saturday at about 7 o'clock. Gage Ginther committing to the University of Tennessee. So far, he is a 3-star recruit per the On3 industry rankings. He is a 3-star recruit per On3, a 3-star recruit per 247, and a 3-star recruits per Rivals.com. If you look at kind of where he stacks up for Tennessee or for these recruiting services in the national rankings, well, in the On3 industry ranking, he's the 740th overall recruit in the country, 97th offensive tackle or 52nd offensive tackle in the country, and the 2nd prospect from the state of Colorado. The other schools that he beat out, he had, I want to say about 18 Division I offers, Colorado State, Nebraska, and of course Tennessee kind of won out over there. And, he's been on the road. He's visited Colorado plenty over the last year, Colorado State, Nebraska. He made a trip to Oklahoma as well, but came to Tennessee just about a week ago, as last week, and really fell in love with the University of Tennessee, and then just made the call just a couple days later. So Tennessee gets offensive tackle Gage Ginther from Fort Collins, Colorado. That came on Saturday night. On Friday, Tennessee picked up another commit via the offensive tackle position for the class of 2024, and that is in-state prospect Jesse Perry from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. He attends Middle Tennessee Christian School, 6'6", 275 pounds. This is Jesse Perry. And he picked Tennessee over some SEC programs as well. He had over 20 Division I offers. Mississippi State was heavily involved. Of course, Vanderbilt was in the running because he is a Middle Tennessee guy. But he was also on campus here. One of these last 2 weekends, Tennessee's been hosting visitors during the spring practice period. Didn't have any this past weekend because, of course, it was the Easter holiday. But Tennessee did a lot of good work there. They really, really did. He's considered a 3-star offensive tackle per the On3 industry rankings, 3-star per On3, 3-star per 247, and 3-star per Rivals.com. And he's considered the 32nd best prospect for the state of Tennessee. Now, with both of these offensive tackles, they are very much, in my opinion, you sign them on potential, kind of like NFL draft prospects, if you will. And I'm not trying to say these two guys are NFL draft prospects, but you look at their body frames, both for Gage Ginther and for Jesse Perry. 6'6". Ginther's 280 pounds. Perry is 275 pounds. Both have long arms. Both have really, really good feet. That's the cornerstone of playing offensive tackle at this level. Be an athletic guy that can bend a little bit, can give up some grounds, but recoup in a hurry, right? And that's what you want in an offensive tackle. So a lot of work to be done, in my opinion, for both these two guys, Jesse Perry and Gage Ginther. And these two guys are further along than when Tennessee took Brian Grant in the class of 2022, I believe, who's now in his second spring and coming along a little bit. But, he was a basketball player and only played football for 1 year, but they really, really liked his makeup because, again, long and has a lot of room to carry some weight. These two guys, I would kind of compare them to him, but much further along in their football progression. So Tennessee gets a couple of offensive tackles for the class of 2024, and because of that, the last few days, Tennessee went from 13th in the country per the national On3 rankings to number 7 in the country. Got a top 10 class right now. Tennessee has 8 commits for the class of 2024. It's slowly kind of moving along here in the spring semester, right? Got quarterback Jake Merklinger, 4-star. Tight end Jonathan Eccles, 4-star. Wide receiver J.J. Harrell, 4-star. Cornerback Caleb Beasley, 4-star. Beasley. 3-star Marcus Gorey, cornerback. 3-star offensive tackle Gage Ginther. 3-star defensive lineman Carson Gentle. And then 3-star Jesse Perry, offensive tackle. So Tennessee is kind of building the cornerstones. You got a couple tackles in the class. You have your quarterback in the class. You have 2 playmaking options on the offensive side of the football. And you've got a really nice lockdown corner and some other defensive back options as well, in this class right now with Caleb Beasley, Marcus Gorey, and really Carson Gentle, who I think is a really underrated prospect on the defensive line in this class. So good to see for the University of Tennessee here over this weekend for some recruiting. Now, on Friday as well, this, I believe, was actually the first commit that kind of kicked all this off, or maybe it was Perry first and then Shamar Arnoux. But nonetheless, Tennessee off to a great start for the class of 2025. 4-star cornerback Shamar Arnoux. First commit for Tennessee in the class of 2025. And again, it's a couple years down the road, right? But it's always good to start early. And, holding on to a guy like this will be tough, but just like Jonathan Eccles, it's always good to, get an early start and be the team to beat early on, right? And that's where Tennessee is for Shamar Arnoux. He is a 4-star cornerback, 6'1", 175 pounds. He is from Alpharetta, Georgia, where he attends Milton. A really, really nice football program, has SEC offers all over the place, but chose Tennessee primarily over some of the likes of Ole Miss and Auburn. Georgia was involved as well, but these teams will continue to call. There's a long way to go. But Shamar Arnoux, is a guy that's been on campus several times. He is a highly rated 4-star prospect per the On3 industry rankings. He is a top 200 prospect per the On3 industry rankings, sitting at prospect 190 overall. He is the 23rd best cornerback in the class and the 20th prospect from the state of Georgia. A really, really nice start for Tennessee for the class of 2025 in Shamar Arnoux. So, again, a really nice recruiting weekend for Tennessee. Were these sexy picks? Absolutely not. Some developmental offensive tackles, sure. You got an in-state guy in there, and Jesse Perry, which is fantastic. And then you got a really, really good start for the class of 2025, but that's just so far away. Even the diehards in recruiting, it's kind of hard to follow and be super invested in right now, but a good start. Tennessee did a really, really nice job this past weekend setting the standard for some recruiting. 2 offensive tackles for the class of 2024, and that's fantastic because tackle has been a position that Tennessee's not recruited well enough, in my opinion, the last couple classes. And numbers-wise, you need more. And so getting 2 developmental guys in the boat early on already, fantastic work from Glenn Ellerbe, and I think you're starting to see, and you'll continue to see this, but seeing the benefits of having a guy like Darnell Wright, who's going to go in the first round, right? And Glenn Ellerbe, who coached him up that way. So really, really good job in that regard. Hey, when we come back, top position battles for spring practice. I'll give you an update on what I've seen there and who I'm looking forward to competing in the orange and white game. That's coming up later this week on Saturday, but we'll talk about it here on the other side of Locked On Vols. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back. Not going to lie, I've been hearing this FanDuel promo on the radio here the last couple of weeks. I'm like, why have they not sent me this copy yet? And here it is. There's no better place to get in the MLB action than at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So here's what you can bet on. Here's some examples of what you can bet on with baseball over at FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm going to take the Yankee player out in Aaron Judge. I'm going to give you a slugger for the Atlanta Braves. Let's go Austin Riley to pick up where he left off last year, a near MVP season, by hitting a home run, right? What about Max Fried when he gets off the DL or the IL? DL, that's a 4 years ago term. The IL, a pitcher to go over on the total set for strikeouts, or you can build an SGP with your favorite matchup of the day. Don't miss your chance at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets when you join FanDuel.com today. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Hey everybody, welcome back into Monday's Locked On Vols. I'm Eric Kane. Don't forget Twitter Tuesdays coming up tomorrow. Get in your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to know about Tennessee football spring practice, Tennessee recruiting, baseball, basketball, whatever you guys have. It's at _Kaner and at Locked On Vols. You can also answer the Q of the day. That is, what is your top position battles for Tennessee football that you'll be looking for in the orange and white game? That kind of leads us in here to this next segment. Here were my top 4 position battles heading into spring, and they still kind of reign true today, right? Number 1 is offensive tackle. Number 2 is cornerback. Number 3 is offensive guard. And number 4 is safety. Are there some other positions that we need to be looking out for? Absolutely. Tight end is a huge one. Defensive, the Leo position is a huge one on defense when Byron Young is left for the NFL draft. Depth at linebacker, that's not really a position battle, if you will, but depth at linebacker is a big one. So, sure, there were some other question marks, but these are the top 4 ones that I've kind of been looking for in spring practice so far. Offensive tackle, I kind of said on last week's show, I kind of think that you are pretty much solidified in the fact that John Campbell is going to be your left tackle. Came over by way of Miami via the transfer portal this offseason. He started every game at left tackle for Miami a season ago. He's a versatile guy. He's played pretty much every position on the offensive line outside of center throughout his career so far, but he is a left tackle, and I think he's come over and he's shown already that he's probably going to be the guy that's going to play, barring injury, he's probably going to be the guy heading into next season as your left tackle. Now, you're probably sitting here saying, well, we had 2 left tackles last year, right? You had Gerald Mincey and J.J. Crawford. What's going on with them? Well, John Campbell probably will enhance that position. That's why they're going to, move those guys to the right side of the line. They like what they have in John Campbell at the left side more so than the other options. So what that means is on the other side, since we know John Campbell is likely the guy that's going to enter the season as a starter at left tackle, who's going to be your right tackle? Who is going to make up for Darnell Wright, who is leaving the program? Well, the good news there is if Tennessee feels confident already, and things can always change. I'm just trying to give you reports on what I've heard and what I've been told and all that type of stuff over the last couple of weeks of spring ball. So a long way to go. But if Tennessee feels so confident in John Campbell already as being one of the tackles, even the left side and moving the other 2 over, you do feel good about knowing your options you have who are going to be competing for that right tackle spot. We've seen these guys play, right? We've seen Gerald Mincey play. We have seen J.J. Crawford play. We have seen Dane Davis play. All three of those guys have played a lot of snaps for Tennessee. Even Dane Davis, the last 2 years, has filled in admirably for a couple of different games and stretches over the season, right? And he's done a good job. Those three guys are competing for that other offensive tackle spot. If I had a kind of a leader right now, I probably Gerald Mincey, because he was quote-unquote the guy they wanted to play the majority of the time last year. So, I think he's having an okay spring, and that's kind of who I go with right now. But there's a long way to go, and I think this last week of spring practice, and of course the orange and white game will, do a lot in terms of, what that position battle is looking like right now, and what it could look like heading into fall camp. So offensive tackles, the number one, it's not done yet. And we should all be looking at the offensive tackles play on Saturday. Cornerback position, of course, right? You have so many guys who got exposure and got playing time last year. And then you even added to it this year with some highly regarded freshmen and Jordan Matthews, Ricky Gibson, Christian Conyer. You added Gabe Lolly there. But it's almost kind of like it's too many cooks, not enough chefs, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen. Who's going to step up? Who's going to solidify those spots? Willie Martinez said last week, it's like, hey, we don't have any starters right now. There's no ones, there's no twos, there's no threes. And I'll tell you this right now, they've been mixing and matching those groups. In fact, in one of the scrimmages, a starter back there that's been one of the starters for the last 4 years was not with the first group. That does not mean that he won't be the starter moving forward, but my point is they were serious when they're mixing and matching and just trying to figure it out. There's no ones, there's no twos, there's no threes. But in conversations with people, the cornerbacks who have stood the tallest and look like legit, starters right now this spring, they have been Danico Slaughter and they have been Gabe Lolly. And that's no surprise. I'm high on Danico Slaughter. I think he's a player. I think he gave Tennessee more last year than any other cornerback did. I think he's a player. I think he's smart. I think if you focus on one position, he can maybe even be really, really good. Remember, he's been at safety for a long, long time, and he came in, played a couple of snaps against LSU, and then when Jalen McCullough was left kind of suspended there for a couple of weeks while he dealt with an off-the-field issue, Danico Slaughter played safety. And then when he came back, Danico Slaughter played corner. So if he could just focus on one position, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. I love the physicality he plays the position with and the athletic ability to go get the football. So heard good things about Danico Slaughter so far. And then Gabe Lolly, I've also heard good things about because he's a guy that's played 4 years of college football. He's experienced. He has been there, done that. He has played in this league before. He has been to venues in this league while playing 3 seasons at Vanderbilt. I like what I've heard and a little bit that I've seen from Gage Lolly as well. But what about those other guys? Warren Burrell has been in a red non-contact jersey this spring, but he's been out there. He's been repping. He's been a guy that's been a starter, multi-year starter on this team for a long time. What's he going to have to say about this in fall camp? What about Kamal Haddon, who physically might be the most gifted of the group, but consistently it's just not there? What about him? Brandon Turnage has not been practicing this spring. What about him? What about those freshmen and Ricky Gibson and Jordan Matthews? Heard good things about them so far, but the cornerback still not decided, and that's something I'm going to be watching for in the last week of spring practice, and then, of course, in the orange and white game. I'm going to give you 2 more. I know I said give me 3, but I'm going to give you 2 more. A guard. So Tennessee's lost 2 starters on the offensive line. Everybody wants to talk about Darnell Wright, and rightfully so, no pun intended, but guard is a big-time gap for Tennessee because Jerome Carvin was so solid for you for so long. And it's my understanding, and there's no reason to panic. There's no reason to worry. Again, these guys have practiced 10 times in spring, right? You are replacing a lot. And there's been injuries galore this spring on the offensive line. So some people have asked me, like, hey, when's it time to be panicking about the offensive line? Not now. Not now whatsoever. Give these guys a chance to come back in fall camp and figure out the 5 and the guys playing next to you on either side and build some chemistry and go get it, right? But the offensive guard spot, no one has jumped up and got it yet, to be completely honest. Andre Carrick has come in and done some nice things, but again, he's new to the system, and he's not been one to just grab a hold of that position. That does not mean he won't in fall camp, but so far, he's not done it. Ollie Lane's been a guy that's been repping with the ones, and he has familiarity with the system, and he's been a guy that's played a lot in this offense, like Dane Davis a lot of times. He's been relied on to play some big snaps in this offensive line for quite some time with Josh Heupel's system. But he had an injury last week, and He was a bit banged up, and we'll see if he's back this week for spring camp. But, he's been up there with the ones right now, but I wouldn't say that he has grabbed that offensive line position. Who else? Could Addison Nichols, who's been at center this spring, getting a lot of great reps with Cooper Mays sidelined for a little bit, could he have his hat in the ring for the left guard position come fall camp? I think that's a very big possibility as well, because I think Addison Nichols has had a pretty decent spring, taking advantage of his opportunities. Offensive guard, who's out there? What's it look like this last week of spring practice? What's it look like in the orange and white game? That is a position that no one has jumped up and grabbed this spring, and that's okay, but that's one I'm going to be watching for. And then lastly, safety. I mentioned you got Jalen McCullough coming back. You got Wesley Walker coming back, who played a lot of star last year, played some safety. Those are your two presumed starters. You've also got Andre Turntine, who's getting a lot of run this spring, right? You've got Christian Charles, who is back at his normal position where he feels a little bit more at home, getting that exposure playing cornerback. I asked him this in media availabilities this past week. I'm like, dude, you played quarterback in high school. You played cornerback this past year. I mean, that gives you some unique perspectives at the safety spot. And he was like, oh, yeah, I love the fact that I've been kind of all over the field. I can use that to my advantage at safety. And so he's there as well. Jordan Thomas, a freshman last year, excelled on special teams. He's been practicing a little bit at star. He's also a guy that can play safety as well. So it's easy just to say those two veterans will be back there, and I think Wesley Walker deserves to play. I do. But you've got to get more athletic, and you've got to have more playmaking ability. You got to get faster at safety. And so I'm going to be watching that this last week of spring while I'm at practice for the little bit that we're allotted. And then, of course, in the orange and white game. So those are kind of some updates on the position battles that I had going in the spring, and those, of course, are what we're going to be watching for in the orange and white game. Who is one player at each of those position battles that I'm going to be watching for even closely, because I think they can change the narrative of how that position battle is dictated? That is coming up next here to conclude a Monday show right here on Locked On Vols. All right, guys, we got a final segment left here of your Monday show. It is Locked On Vols, your team every single day. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Cue of the day. What are your top position battles for Tennessee football you're going to be looking for in the orange and white game? If it's not any of the positions that I have named, or maybe you want to single one of those out, please let me know. You can use that for Twitter Tuesday, or send me any questions, comments, concerns you guys have. Tennessee football, recruiting, basketball, baseball, hoops, whatever you guys have. If you have any questions for me, I'll answer them on tomorrow's show right here on Locked On Vols. All right, going to be a little shorter and a little sweeter here in the last segment, because we kind of broke down ad nauseum the position battles that I will be looking for, that I have been and will continue to here on the last little week of spring practice. But one player from each of those battles that I think can change how this narrative goes. Essentially, one player from each of those battles that I think can rise up and win it, honestly. At offensive tackle, we know John Campbell is going to be one of them most likely. What about from the trio of Gerald Mincey, J.J. Crawford, and Dane Davis? The player I'm watching for is Gerald Mincey. He is bigger. He's more athletic than the other two. He's got better feet. I think he's the guy that makes the most sense. But consistency was not often there from one game to the next. He got benched a couple of times last year because, again, if you look at the individual numbers, J.J. Crawford and Gerald Mincey through 12 regular season games, I think Mincey played 4 more total snaps than J.J. Crawford did. They pretty much split that position at left tackle 50-50 last year. It's not ideal. Tennessee still led the nation in offense, so it's not like it hurts, but it's not ideal. You want to feel good about one guy. You want one guy to solidify that spot and take off running with it, right? I think Gerald Mincey has the best opportunity to do that because I think he's the most equipped of the 3 options. I do. Again, bigger, more athletic. He's got better feet. It just kind of makes sense. So if you can find some consistency there with Gerald Mincey, I think he's going to be the guy that can solidify that spot at right tackle. But that's just kind of me. So the guy I'm watching in the offensive tackle position battle is Gerald Mincey. Let's go to cornerback. You guys know I love Nico Slaughter. Really like his game. I think highly of Gabe Judy Lawley. I do. And I think he's going to be a big player for Tennessee this year. But I think of all the options at cornerback, again, the guy still with the highest ceiling is Kamal Hadden. I said this in the last segment. When Kamal Hadden plays at his best, he's probably better than anybody, in my opinion. But But how often have we seen him play at his best? Or have we? There's been a lot of bad plays last year from Kamal Hadden. A lot of bad effort plays. A lot of bad decisions, getting beat. Who can forget getting beat consistently in the South Carolina game, and he got up talking crap the entire time? What are you doing? The consistency. You want to talk about consistency? There was none there when Kamal Hadden was in the ballgame at cornerback last year. And he dealt with some injuries, just like everybody does. But, talent-wise and skill-wise, he might be better than anybody on the roster at that position. It's just, can you reach it and can you keep it and keep that level of play? That's something he's not been able to do so far. But if he does, watch out, because I think he could be a really dangerous weapon for Tennessee in the defensive backfield. So he would be the guy that I'm on the lookout for. But to say there's high hopes of him reaching that level of consistent play, I'd be lying to you if I said that I think that I'm banking on it right now, because I'm not. We just didn't see that last year. We saw a whole lot of mistakes and then, constantly making wrong decisions and all that type of stuff. But he is the guy that I would point to and say, okay, if it can click for him, then you better watch out. So Kamal Hadden would be the guy, I'm watching at the cornerback position. Let's go to offensive line. Now, I said in the last segment for the guard position that I think Addison Nichols could throw his hat in the ring come fall camp. He likely won't get any reps at guard, the rest of the spring, because, again, Cooper Mays has been sidelined, and he, along with Parker Ball and Bryson Lang, have been, getting some valuable center reps as Tennessee's trying to find a backup center for Cooper Mays heading into the season. So he's been doing a good job. He's been getting a whole lot of reps with the ones, and I think some of the physicality questions that we had about Addison Nichols coming in the spring, I think some of those have been answered. Now, I'm not trying to say he's a complete product and he's done and he's finished, because he's not. There's still a long way to go for him to reach the level of player that I believe and a lot of coaches believe that he can be. So we'll have to see. But I do think Addison Nichols could be a guy that throws his hat in the ring come fall camp time when Cooper Mays is back playing center and is healthy, and Tennessee's still trying to find a starting left guard. Having said all that, for right now, the guy I'm watching for at the offensive guard position would be Ollie Lane, to be completely honest with you. That is not the sexy pick. That is not the trending, fan favorite, if you will. And maybe it is. He's a local talent guy, really nice guy. He's a fifth-year guy. He's been here for quite some time. He was recruited by Butch Jones. Let's see here. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 20. This is actually his sixth year, so I guess he had a medical red shirt in there somewhere. He's been here forever, right? But, recruited by Butch Jones, signed in Jeremy Pruitt's first class, and he's been here every step of the way since. But he's a guy that has been there, done that in this offense. Again, they've had to rely on him for stretches of times each of the past two seasons, and arguably Tennessee's best offensive output ever in Tennessee football history. Now, they had me and you playing linebacker that day, but it was at Missouri 2021, and he was a starting left guard in that football game. I'm not saying that that's a stamp of approval or anything, but I think it's worth noting. But I think Ollie Lane's a guy that, if everything's even, everybody's healthy and everything, he's a guy to watch out for, because he's a guy that no one was talking about that could actually win the starting job and be Tennessee's starting left guard. But I think he's a guy that could do it. And I think the coaching staff, they obviously know what they have in Ollie, because they've seen him play for quite some time. So he missed a big portion of last week. And we'll see if he's back in action for this week. We'll see if he plays in the orange and white game. But what an opportunity for Ollie Lane, as he's battling with Andre Carrick, the transfer from Texas. He's battling with Jackson Lampley and Mo Clipper and some of these other guys, Messiah Reddick, and some of these younger options at the offensive guard position. So that's who I would have there. And then finally, at safety, the guy that I'd be looking out for and watching for this spring to maybe change the narrative, if you will. What about Andre Turrentine? In my opinion, it's kind of now or never. He was big-time get via the transfer portal, coming over from Ohio State last year. He spent his true freshman season at Ohio State. I think he redshirted, got a lot of run with the Buckeyes last spring, came over to Tennessee this past summer. What about Andre Turrentine? What can he give you? He's been getting plenty of opportunities. He's been getting plenty of chances this spring. Can he give you anything? And if he's not a starter, can you at least have the ability to say, oh, okay, starter, safety, and safety, you continuously are getting beat by this guy. Let's go to the bench, bring in somebody and see if there's, can be any difference, right? You didn't have that ability last year or the year before that. Can Tennessee have enough depth this year to where you have that ability? Can Andre Turrentine be a guy that can actually play for you? We'll find out. And I think this last week of spring practice will be big for him. And we'll see what he looks like in the orange and white game. All right, guys, we're going to continue to preview a little bit of the orange and white game every single episode of this week. Really looking forward to that. But really looking forward to talking to you guys 4 more times this week. And, of course, looking at some orange and white stuff coming up on Saturday. Guys, appreciate you so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. Helps me out so much, helps get this video out in front of more and more Tennessee fans as well. So if you haven't done that already, I would greatly appreciate that, as well as rate me 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, leaving me a positive review. Appreciate you guys as always. We'll come back tomorrow for your mailbag edition of the show, and until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday, everybody.